headlines. President Park Geun-hye calls for efforts to enhance safety and root out corruption as part of the government's drive to reform and foster innovation. Seoul police say a South Korean teen who went missing in Turkey crossed the border into Syria voluntarily amid signs that he may have joined the Islamic State group. And President Barack Obama outlines his plan to help working Americans, vowing to make sure that people are rewarded for hard work with more opportunities in his State of the Union address. Hello and welcome to ARIRANG News. Thanks for tuning in. Live from Seoul, I am Kang Tae-ri. We begin over at the nation's top office. Beefing up safety measures topped the agenda at a meeting of some 8 government bodies today. And in the spotlight was the new safety minister who promised to create a safer society for Koreans. Our Choi Yoo-sun starts us off.
The head of the new safety ministry, established in the aftermath of last year's deadly ferry accident, has vowed to ensure a fast response to major crises in the nation. A special rescue team will be formed to reach an accident or disaster site anywhere in the country within 30 minutes on land and an hour by sea. A lax response to the sinking of the Seoul ferry last April was largely blamed for the deaths of more than 300 passengers. Safety Minister Park Geun-hye said he will bolster the ministry's fire service and Coast Guard rescue operations and hold more public servants accountable for laxity. Inspections of public facilities will be carried out annually, and safety education will be offered to all Koreans, from toddlers to the elderly. The safety minister also talked about turning a problem into an opportunity by expanding the use of information and communications technology and safety management and creating jobs in new areas such as safety consulting and monitoring. Saying that government reform is the very beginning of all reforms, the administration minister said he will integrate overlapping public projects and services to more efficiently cater to the needs of the public. Public servants will be encouraged to initiate and innovate through incentives, and those involved in corruption will face dire consequences.
We plan to expand bonuses for good performance for the salaried positions. It's a step towards implementing a performance-based system in public service.
And to encourage greater specialization in public service, government employees will be limited to the number of times they can be transferred from one ministry to another, and more positions will be open to experts from the private sector. Choi Yoo-sun, ARIRANG News.
And the country's law enforcement officials also took part in that meeting there. They said they will do all they can to root out social crimes, especially in the wake of some horrifying cases of child abuse seen in the past few weeks. Park Ji-won with this report.
Korea's Ministry of Justice has stressed that a firm legal foundation has to underpin the government's plans for structural reform. Laying of his ministry's plans for 2015 to President Park Geun-hye on Wednesday, Justice Minister Hwang Kyo-wan focused on ways to re-establish law and order, build a law-abiding society, and eradicate deep-rooted crimes. The ministry says the protection of Korea's constitutional values are at the core of attempts to maintain and strengthen law and order. It says pro-North Korean campaigns and illegal protests will be subject to stricter crackdowns. The Justice Ministry will also strengthen legal education for young people and ordinary citizens in conjunction with the Education Ministry to foster a more law-abiding society. The ministry will also focus on crime prevention. A top priority is tackling child abuse, a reflection of the public's fury over recent child abuse cases. The government plans to inspect every daycare center and build a stronger network with the police to swiftly respond to abuse cases. Sex crimes, as well as domestic and school violence, and crimes related to the unsanitary management of food are other areas the ministry has vowed to stamp out. The government also aims to increase support for the victims of crime. The government is also going to strengthen its pro bono legal services in a joint effort with Korea Legal Aid Corporation. The Anti-Corruption and Civil Rights Commission of Korea stresses that rooting out corruption and raising the level of social trust is key to achieving the government's lofty goals. It vowed a swift passage of comprehensive anti-corruption bill that's currently pending at the National Assembly. Park Geun-hye, ARIRANG News.
And now to the latest on a South Korean who went missing in Turkey. Authorities here say there is a good chance that this missing teen voluntarily crossed the border into Syria, but they could not find enough evidence to support suspicions that he may have joined the Islamic State militant group. Kwon So-ah reports.
It's been more than 10 days since a young Korean man, known only by his surname Kim, went missing in Turkey. But there's growing speculation that he may somehow be linked to the Islamic State. On Wednesday, the Seoul Metropolitan Police Agency announced the results of its preliminary investigation into the disappearance, saying the 18-year-old crossed the border into Syria voluntarily. Police say there is a low chance that he was forced or kidnapped. They have not found any evidence that he is involved in the militant group, only clues of his interest. Investigators restored Kim's computer and found that as of January last year, many of Kim's key search words were related to the Islamic State. He also expressed his interest in IS on social networking services. Local Korean news channel YTN reported that Kim had left a message for his family before embarking on his trip, which says joint IS. Although grammatically incorrect, it suggests he was telling his parents he was going to join the group. The 18-year-old's whereabouts are still unknown following his disappearance on January 10th from the Turkish border city of Kilis. If he is found to have joined the Islamic State, he will be the first known Korean to have done so. Kwon So-ah, ARIRANG News.
We've looked at how Korea is gearing up to be a breeding ground for startups in two previous reports in our 5-part series this week. And our number 3 report turns to the funding environment that many say still has a long way to go. Our Hwang Ji tells us more.
Facebook 8, Google 35. That's the number of startups the two U.S. tech giants bought last year alone. Korea's Samsung Electronics, less than 1 startup a year on average over the past decade. The head of an association of angel investors says Korean conglomerates instead focus on recruiting engineers with innovative ideas from either suppliers or rival companies.
We have yet to build up a corporate culture that actively embraces M&As, which rewards startups with attractive valuations.
And the corporate practices, experts say, make it hard for venture capitals to thrive in Korea, as M&A deals are the best way for angel investors to make big bucks. While such incentives encourage investors to seek opportunities to turn innovative ideas into lucrative businesses, the lack of them has limited the growth of the pool of venture capital. It stood at roughly $2.3 billion last year, little changed from $2 billion 3 years ago. Building up startup success stories is also critical.
In Korea, there aren't many successful angel funds out there. This is because so many investors got their fingers burnt in the wake of the dot-com crash in the early 2000s.
To achieve the government's goal of making startups Korea's next growth engine, experts say educational reform is vital. Many critics say the Korean educational system's emphasis on rote memory and discipline stifles creativity and entrepreneurial spirit. Hwang Ji, ARIRANG News.
I dare say that one of people's top New Year's resolutions was probably to quit smoking. While some might have broken that resolution even before sunset, many people here in Korea are actually going the extra mile to stick to it after cigarette prices almost doubled starting this year. Our Kim Min-ji tells us what some of these smokers are doing to keep their resolutions.
With prices up and fewer places to light up, many smokers in Korea have made resolutions to quit smoking this year, or cut down at least. Kim Ji-mo, who has been smoking for 8 years, is one of them. To get started, he sought the help of a tobacco cessation clinic.
Well, the tax increase came quite suddenly, and smokers like myself didn't have time to adjust. And I am being really forced to quit smoking.
Tobacco cessation clinics nationwide have seen a surge in visitors this year, and specialists are apparently too busy to sit down for an interview. Health Ministry data shows that more than 100,000 people registered for smoking cessation programs as of last week, up 4 times from a year ago. Those who sign up visit a clinic for about 6 months and undergo counseling. Others are exploring a range of alternatives.
The market for products that help smokers kick the habit, such as this nicotine-free inhaler or chewing gum, is expected to get a boost from cigarette price hike this year.
Sales of e-cigarettes, for one, have been booming since the start of the year.
I've seen sales jump about 3 to 4 times. Sometimes I get so many phone inquiries that I can't attend to the customers that visit.
E-cigarettes have become popular for both the variety of flavors and as a way to cut down or quit gradually.
Before turning to e-cigarettes, I smoked for about 20 years. I changed because it's cheaper in the long run, and there is no smell, so I can freely interact with others.
Other smoking cessation products, such as patches and inhalers, also saw a sharp increase in sales during the first 2 weeks of January from a year ago. The first month of the year is normally a time when sales of such products jump, but with the higher prices here to stay for good, the market is likely to get bigger. Whether the craze will lead to an overall decrease in the smoking rate, which the government hopes to see decline to 35% from the current 42%, is something only time will tell. Kim Min-ji, ARIRANG News.
Despite warnings that texting or talking on the phone while driving is dangerous enough to actually kill you, more people here in Korea are using their phones while on the road. A survey by Hyundai Marine and Fire Insurance shows over 90% of drivers said they check their smartphones when they're behind the wheel. 7 out of 10 in this group said they check their phones when stopped at a traffic light, and the rest when they're stuck in traffic or driving in residential areas. People caught using a phone while driving here in Korea are fined around $60. An exhibition in Japan is showing controversial works of art that come with a clear message for the conservative government. Visitors keep on coming, proof that there are Japanese individuals who are brave enough to accept historic facts instead of glorifying their wartime atrocities. Shin Se-min tells us more.
The artworks at this gallery are a rather uncommon sight, especially in Tokyo. All have been pulled from previous exhibitions or ignored by other museums for violating Article 9 of Japan's constitution. The article says the country is against a display of artwork related to Japan's wartime past, including its system of sexual enslavement. One of the pieces on display is a statue of a young girl who represents the victims of Japan's wartime sexual slavery program.
She has a solemn expression on her face, and seeing that on a little girl's face breaks my heart.
The statue was created by the same Korean couple that made a bronze statue honoring the victims that sits across from the Japanese embassy in Seoul. The statue on display in Japan was pulled out of a museum in Tokyo in 2012 because of the political nature of the work. Artist Kim Sa-kyung says she is glad to see that her piece is changing viewers' perceptions of the sex slavery issue.
Many viewers seem to have had a distorted image of the sex slave issue and the sculpture, but they go home with the realization that the victims of Japan's wartime sex slavery weren't fighting back. The expression on the young woman's face is calm.
The exhibition curator says she wanted to show pieces that haven't been seen before because they make reference to Japan's wartime past. She also hopes it'll help efforts to press the Abe administration to address these issues.
I specifically wanted to express that the freedoms of speech and expression are being violated.
People interested in another version of Japan's wartime past continue to visit the exhibition, regardless of their government's strong stance against it. Shin Se-min, ARIRANG News.
U.S. President Barack Obama has vowed to improve the lives of working-class Americans in this year's State of the Union address in Washington. And to tell us more, Paul Lee is joining us from the News Center. Paul, Obama used this opportunity also to talk about counterterrorism, foreign diplomacy, as well as climate change. What else did he focus on in his speech?
Well, during his much-anticipated address on Tuesday, Obama outlined his administration's vision for America in his remaining 2 years in office. He urged Congress to pass $320 billion in tax hikes for the rich, which would go towards better wages, health care, and education for low- and middle-class families. This as he declared that America was turning the page on years of war and economic recession. Our Son Jung-in has the details.
U.S. President Barack Obama used his annual State of the Union address to turn the page from an era of terror and recession to one of expanding economic opportunity. Emphasizing that the country's economy is growing and creating jobs at the fastest pace since 1999, he started his speech by calling on Congress to join him in enacting his so-called middle-class economics policy. He pledged to help middle-class families afford child care, college, and health care by collecting more tax from high-income earners and large financial institutions. Speaking to a room full of more Republicans than Democrats for the first time during his term, he said helping hard-working families make ends meet will lead to a stronger economy in the years to come. Obama also discussed the foreign policy issues.
We stand united with people around the world who've been targeted by terrorists, from a school in Pakistan to the streets of Paris. We will continue to hunt down terrorists and dismantle their networks, and we reserve the right to act unilaterally, as we have done relentlessly since I took office, to take out terrorists who pose a direct threat to us and our allies.
Stressing that his first duty as commander-in-chief is to defend the country, he asked Congress to pass legislation granting him authorization to fund the ongoing battle against Islamic State in Iraq and Syria. He also addressed efforts to eradicate Ebola in West Africa and plans to normalize relations with Cuba. In addition, he urged Congress to pass new cybersecurity legislation in the wake of the cyber attack on Sony Pictures, which the administration blames on North Korea. Son Jung-in, ARIRANG News.
And shifting to Europe, the world's top political and business leaders have gathered for the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. Paul, this annual forum kicks off on this Wednesday. So what's the focus this year?
Well, at the top of the agenda, we'll be tackling global economic challenges. This elite group has been under pressure to address the staggering rate of global wealth inequality, which was highlighted in an Oxfam report earlier this week. Other high-level issues that have been tabled include preventing jihadists who hail from Western countries in planning attacks on their home soil, a case that has been brought to the forefront since the Charlie Hebdo killings in Paris. Our Son Ji-sung tells us more.
This year's World Economic Forum annual meeting is being held against a backdrop of multiple challenges to the global economy. Financial uncertainties, regional conflicts, and the uneven global economic recovery will be weighing on the minds of those flying to Davos. Some 40 heads of state, including German Chancellor Angela Merkel, French President François Hollande, and Chinese Premier Li Keqiang and 2,500 other business and society leaders will flock in to discuss the new global context. The challenges include the resolution of geopolitical crises in the wake of conflicts in Ukraine and the Middle East and the rise of Islamic State. The program also includes discussions on pandemics and health after Ebola took the lives of several thousand West Africans and some Western aid workers.
We have to deal with the issues to foster the growth on a global level. We have to deal with the challenges we see on the geopolitical level, for example, in Europe. in the Eurozone, but as well as the crisis in the Ukraine. We've also to deal with the Middle East issues, IS, Middle East, terrorism in North Africa.
On the opening day, Chinese Premier Li Keqiang will give a keynote speech on China's growth. That's one to keep an eye on, as it marks the first appearance by a Chinese leader in Davos in 6 years. IMF Chief Christine Lagarde and other economists will discuss the results of quantitative easing on the second day, and on the last day of the forum, look out for the forum's global economic outlook and 2015 agenda. South Korea's Foreign Minister Yoon Byung-se will give a speech on Seoul's unification policy, titled Unified Korea, Infinite Possibilities, on Thursday's Korean Night. Yoon will lay out Seoul's vision for unification, as this year marks the 70th anniversary of Inter-Korean division. 송지선, 아리랑 뉴스.
And turning to Southeast Asia, Indonesia's transport minister says the ill-fated AirAsia flight 8501 climbed at unusually high speeds in its final moments before crashing into the Java Sea. This new evidence seems to point to pilot error as the cause of this accident. So take us through what happened on that tragic day.
Well, the Singapore-bound plane carrying 162 people crashed on December 28th after the pilot requested permission to fly at a higher elevation to avoid big storm clouds while cruising at around 33,000 feet. Citing radar data, the Transport Minister Ignatius Jonan told a parliamentary hearing on Tuesday that the Airbus had sharply ascended at a speed of 2,000 meters per minute, or roughly 500 meters within 6 seconds, a speed faster than a fighter jet would climb.
I think it's rare for a fighter plane to increase its flight level at 6,000 feet per minute. For a commercial flight to climb 1,000 to 2,000 feet is a tremendous amount because it's not designed to be able to rise so rapidly.
Investigators are still analyzing data from the recovered black box recorders to support this latest theory that the plane stalled in mid-flight. Meanwhile, Indonesian search teams are preparing equipment to retrieve the fuselage of the AirAsia jetliner, which lies at the bottom of the sea. Officials said Wednesday that bad weather was hampering efforts to reach the debris.
Now, finally, a move over Hollywood. The stage has been set for one of the biggest battles in the media content industry. So e-commerce giant Amazon and the internet streaming company service Netflix have now declared themselves the latest players in the movie-making business. So how are the analysts saying? What are they saying about this matchup?
Well, many are saying that Netflix is in the hot seat at the moment as it faces an increasing aggressive rival with Amazon, which has stepped up production of its own digital content for users. Now, the biggest advantage for Amazon has it over Netflix is its sheer spending power, which comes from its vast retail shopping revenues. According to Wedbush Securities, Amazon spent about $2 billion on content creation last year alone. Add to that its established content ecosystem, and you have Netflix left fighting on an uneven battlefield.
They still have over 40 million subscribers paying anywhere between $8 and $12 a month around the world, and you can't slight that. But Amazon has a different motive. They're really giving you movies and television shows as a kind of bonus to the Amazon Prime offerings of free shipping and other discounts throughout the whole ecosystem that Amazon works in e-commerce.
Analysts say Netflix's best move would be to team up with the internet search portal site Yahoo or even China's own e-commerce titan Alibaba. The move would give Netflix a boost in capital funding while benefiting both partners due to the bright future of online streaming services. Charity?
All right, Paul, let's leave it there for now. And thanks so much for those stories. And we'll see you again in just about 2 hours.
Hello and welcome. I'm Kim Bo-kyung with your weather outlook. So we begin with news of showers currently falling over regions down south, and this rainy system would spread across the country later tonight, resulting in flurries for some places. So it looks like over 15 centimeters of heavy snowfall may fall on the mountains of Gangwon-do province. Elsewhere, moderate rain will hit both Chungcheong-do provinces as well as the southern part of the country, including Jeju, dropping about 5 to 10 millimeters. The mix of snow and showers will affect most regions except Seoul and the northern Gyeonggi-do province, and the system will gradually clear up by tomorrow morning. Other than that, it looks like numbers will continue to hit the seasonal average range. So Seoul makes it to 7, while snowy Daegu and Gwangju hit 6. Jeju should reach a high of 7, Dokdo 6, Mount Kumgang -5. Those are the updates we're following at this hour, and I'll be back with more after 10.
Thank you very much, Po Kyung, and that will do it for this edition of ARIRANG News. Thanks for watching.